Am I the asshole for ruining Thanksgiving? I, 30 female, met my boyfriend, 30 male, 3 years ago. Before me he was together with his HS sweetheart. They fell out of love and broke up. A year later we started dating. His mom, however, was still heartbroken about it. I was very understanding and thought she needed time to get to know me. The ex basically grew up with them and they saw her as a part of the family. For the first year of my relationship his mom would call me ex's name, until boyfriend got angry once and told her to be nice. She laughed it off and said it was just a habit. After that she started calling me the wrong name. Janet instead of Jenny, fictional names just for the story. I corrected her a couple of times but she seemed to like hurting me so I ignored it later. My boyfriend has 2 sisters and a couple of weeks before Thanksgiving we were invited to barbecue at the older sister's house. I was in the kitchen with my BF's mom, the sisters and one of their husbands. The older sister then talked about how my boyfriend praised my cooking to her husband and the mom was listening. She then said out loud, "Sure. Why don't we let Janet make the turkey this year?" The sisters giggled and looked at each other and I said, "That's a great idea." I didn't tell my boyfriend what happened. On Thanksgiving we went to his mom's house with the usual wine and dessert. She was shocked. Everybody was shocked. I said, "What? I thought Janet is bringing the turkey." There was yelling, crying and then we got kicked out. My boyfriend is so angry with me he hasn't talked to me since. I think it's over to be honest. But I still don't think I did anything wrong. Did I? Thunderous applause. You're my favorite asshole for this. My absolute hero. ETA. Wow. Thanks for the awards. ETA too. I'm being asked to give judgment. I repeat. Op is my favorite asshole. Not the asshole here, so not the asshole. Not the asshole. I think it drove the point home. Your boyfriend should have been sticking up for you more but this was a good final fuck you. Not the asshole. Your BF's mom is clearly trying to sabotage your relationship. Your boyfriend needs to stand up for you and put a stop to it immediately. As for the turkey, again, that's ridiculous and they knew exactly what they were doing causing that drama. Not the asshole. This family sounds like absolute nightmare fuel. If my future partner's mother tried to alienate me any chance she got I would have had the same reaction. There's only so much hatefulness a person can take. I genuinely feel so sorry for you in having to go through that, it must hurt a lot. Your boyfriend should have had a sit-down talk with her ages ago about boundaries and being kind to you. Which shouldn't even have to happen in a relationship. I'm glad you stuck up for yourself and made her feel like an idiot because she is one. Your boyfriend should have stuck up for you anyhow considering it's out of your hands to be respected. Not the asshole. She has been rude and disrespectful to you. It's understandable she misses the ex, but you didn't so anything wrong. So you threw her bad behavior back in her face. She had it coming. Your boyfriend is Ta. He should have been more supportive and defended you. He should never have let it get this far. If it is over, then maybe you're better off. Not the asshole who expects someone to arrive at their house with a fully cooked turkey? Technically I think I should vote YTA but I like your style and think you are kinda not the asshole. It's bad timing, you had to know it would explode. Your boyfriend is an ass and very detached, but the whole scenario made me smile. How did your boy not even know that you were supposed to be bringing turkey? In the whole run-up, did no one mention anything to him? You should have added insult to injury and brought tofu burgers. Not the asshole. I would have said, well, Mill and sisters, you said Janet was bringing the turkey. I was looking forward to meeting her. Then watch them all squirm because it's on them for misnaming you. Am I the asshole for inserting myself into someone else's dinner situation? Update at the bottom. Throwaway. Okay, I know the title is confusing but hear me out. I went out to eat with my 34 female boyfriend, 35 male, and 2 other couples. For context, I am a mother to a 5 years old, not my boyfriend child. So 2 tables away was a new parent couple and what I can only assume was the guy's parents. I assumed this because I was that girl when I first had my child. Out to dinner with your father's child and his family and baby is being fussy, you're struggling and no one is helping you. Baby's crying for about 15 minutes now, all while the father or no one else for that matter is offering her any help or a break so she can have at least a bite of her food that's been sitting there cold for about 30 minutes. I really just wanted to run to her, grab the baby for a bit and tell her to eat. This is where I have been an asshole. Baby's crying. Again, no one paying attention. And she goes to comfort baby and breastfeed. Well, all of a sudden she's the center of attention. Baby father says, "What are you doing? That's disgusting, go to a stall in the bathroom." At this point I lost it. My boyfriend was trying to calm me down the entire time, telling me it's none of my business, but I just went ham. I got up from my table, walked over and told him if he found it so disgusting, why doesn't he go eat his sandwich under the toilet? I said she has been struggling, hasn't had a bite to eat all while the three of you sit there enjoying yourselves and letting her drown. And then I said loud enough that the tables around could hear that anyone who is offended by a woman breastfeeding needs to get checked, because breasts weren't made for men to suck on for pleasure, they were made for feeding, and that's exactly what she's doing. No one said anything, but she also didn't go to the bathroom and finished feeding her baby, who calmed down and she was able to eat. My boyfriend is upset I caused a scene in front of some of his friends and everyone really at the restaurant, but I just couldn't sit back, watch, and say nothing. So Reddit, am I the asshole for inserting myself and yelling at strangers? Just some clarification after all the comments. I do agree and feel terrible that I could have put her in a position to get yelled at later. That wasn't my intention. I saw red, mostly because I have been through exactly this and have gone home in tears and feeling alone. I would normally not get into anyone's business. I appreciate all your feedback, and for sure next time I feel the urge to say something I'm going to take a breath and find a better way to communicate that doesn't put anyone in danger or interrupt other people. My boyfriend is still not talking to me until I apologize because again I embarrassed him, regardless of the reason. Feel like I should just send a text to his friends and keep it moving. Update. Wow guys, thank you for all the responses, support, advice and criticism. These past 24 hours have been crazy, so here's a quick update. I mentioned in a previous comment but will say again that the young mom did give me a smile as we were saying our goodbyes in the parking lot and they were leaving. In terms of this situation, like I said, I could have had more tact and really hope I didn't expose her to more abuse in retaliation. As for my boyfriend, well now ex, because he broke up, well told me he needed space with me. I showed him the thread and this is what happened. 1. Super pissed that I posted this on here. Why am I putting our business out on the internet? And basically I wanted people to turn against him. What? And more attention than I already took at the restaurant too. One of his friends is very conservative, and while his friend didn't actually say anything to my ex, he says his friend was definitely offended by the breastfeeding at the table because it's not hygienic. He doesn't agree that she should have gone to bathroom, but it wasn't the appropriate place to feed. 3. One of the things he liked about me was how I kept my mom life separate from my relationship with him. And that while he was weirded out that I never invited him to my house the entire time we've been dating, 2 years, he appreciated not having to be involved because he has never wanted kids. Doesn't like them. So basically I set a boundary from the beginning of, no kid stuff. I crossed it at the restaurant and made a big scene in front of his friends, who he says were also embarrassed but weren't going to say anything. So like this is all still going on. I'm a bit sad, like maybe I did do the most, but also I'm like F him. Since me and my daughter's dad split 50-50, I can see how someone can see me and not realize that I'm a whole ass mother. The reason I don't let people I'm dating come to my house is because at the end of the day I don't know these people from Adam. Did you torture animals as a child? Woman shrugging, medium skin tone. And rather than expose my daughter to variables, guy's character or behaviors, I prefer if they don't have access. I know it may sound crazy or weird, but when I was in college a guy the first dated would show up to my apartment drunk yelling for me outside my window. So I'm not leaving the door even cracked for something like this to happen and my daughter be home with me. She'd be terrified. So what he said was he needed a break, and I just said let's just not do this at all because it's not gonna work. For sure I set boundaries with my kid, but if anything involving kids is a problem then we aren't going to work because again I am a mother. And even on my days off, I'm on call because anything can happen and I need to be there regardless. Thank you guys for all your responses. It's hard sometimes when things blow up like this to whisk away the bullshit and see things for what they are. Not the asshole you waited, assessed the situation and responded accordingly. I think if anything, the fact that she continued to feed her child proved just how thankful she was for you blowing up on them. Not the asshole, and good for you for standing up for that poor lady. There needs to be more people like you in the world. Not the asshole. Your boyfriend is, however. If he is more worried about causing a scene than sitting there and watching this poor woman struggle and get berated for feeding her baby, then he ought to be checked as well. God forbid you were ever in a situation where you are struggling. Would he rather you struggle than somebody defend you? You rock, op. There is a good amount of Oz in this story, but you are not one of them. Not the asshole, and I think you're amazing. No, it wasn't any of your business, but it's important to stand up for people. It says a lot about your character. Good for you. You're amazing for doing that. I bet she will remember that forever. I know I would. Also, women should support and stick up for other women. Which is exactly what you did. Super proud of you over here. And sorry, but your boyfriend sounds like public opinion is more important to him than doing what you feel is right. That's a problem. Your boyfriend's attitude and quiet complicity are how all these abusive status quos, like systemic sexism and racism, stay in place. Not the asshole. That family was actually inserting themselves into all the other customer dining experience. Not sure I would have said that exactly, but, in my book, you were fine. Not the asshole. Everyone sucks here except the poor woman and your BF. The rest of the table should have been helping with the baby so she could eat, and breastfeeding should not be relegated to bathrooms. But you caused a scene that just as likely embarrassed the woman as was appreciated. And you get to waltz away from it patting yourself on the back while she's stuck dealing with any aftermath from her husband and family. You are the asshole. If I was having an argument with my in-laws, which you don't even know these people to be, and a complete stranger yelled, gave a restaurant full of people reason to stare at me while my breasts were out. Why did you assume she wouldn't speak for herself? She has agency. She did not thank you for your outburst. You did what you did to make yourself feel better about the situation. You're not a hero. Am I the asshole for refusing to snowblow my neighbor's driveway for free? I, 27M, live next to this guy in his 80s and he's honestly a nightmare, but he's old. So in like 2015 or so, I told him I would snowblow his driveway for free. 2 years ago, I got a puppy who admittedly barked a lot. However, we did a lot of training with him, and he hardly barks at all now. I know this because I work from home, so I'm always here. My dog will bark maybe once or twice per day for less than 10 seconds each time, and it's always during daylight hours, usually around noon. I always shut it down quickly. I'm close with all of the other neighbors on my street, and I've asked them if they think my dog barks too much. They have all said that he doesn't at all. As long as we've had my dog, my neighbor has complained about him. And his complaints are rude. He has called us incompetent assholes and FC King losers over our dog. This summer, he told us that my relationship with him was no longer friendly, and we were to be strictly neighbors for the rest of the time that we lived together. He even threatened to report us to the WA to see if they would make me get rid of my dog. I'm pretty sure they wouldn't make me get rid of him, but that did really make me angry. Anyway, last night we got our first big snow of the season. Instead of snowblowing his driveway like I usually do, I snowblowed mine and went back inside. 20 minutes later, he texted me saying that he was going to breakfast with his friend and needed his driveway snowblowed so he could get out. I responded that I would no longer be doing his driveway for free, since he had said that our relationship was no longer friendly. I offered to do his driveway for $200, or I said he could pay one of the kids that live in the neighborhood. He got pissed and told me that he didn't have time to coordinate with the neighborhood kids and that he needed his driveway snowblowed. I told him I would do it for $200. He said he refused to pay me to do his driveway. So I told him I wouldn't do it. It's later in the day now and he hasn't cleared his driveway yet. I feel great, but he called me an asshole in his texts and my wife told me I might be an asshole because he's old. So, I figured I'd pose the question here. Am I the asshole? Not the asshole. People need to realize being old isn't an excuse to behave like an asshole. Would you feel bad if he was in his 20s? Nope. He made his bed, now he can lie in it. My son shovels out the elderly neighbor's driveway, which is crazy long and steep to boot. She gives him $50 and tells him he's the most handsome boy in the world. I'm just saying this is the minimum standard. Tell your neighbor you'll do it for $200 or $50 and being told you're the most handsome boy in the world. Not the asshole. If he wants neighborly kindness, he has to be a kind neighbor. He made it very clear he wasn't interested in that kind of friendly relationship, so you don't owe him more than he asked for, which was strictly neighbors. If the old bastard needs your help, he needs to be your neighbor and not an asshole. Otherwise he needs to find someone else to help him or pay for it. Not the asshole. He wanted it so he got it. After all, you are no longer friendly and strictly neighbors. Who does he think he is to talk down to people like that, calling them losers, assholes, etc., and then expect you to kiss his ass the moment he bends over? My wife told me I might be an asshole because he's old. Ill respect and help the elderly a little more readily than other folks. But in return they have a duty to act politely and graciously, like any other folks. This old man is a miserable curmudgeon. Let him stew in his own juices until he either apologizes to you or finds his own way out of his driveway. Not the asshole. Yes, he is old, but he made sure to notify you that you were no friend of his, so why should you continue doing him a solid favor? Not the asshole. God. I used to have a neighbor exactly like this, who was also old. Not the asshole at all. He was the one who told you that your relationship was no longer friendly. It doesn't make you an asshole not to snowblow a driveway of a neighbor that is actively hostile against you. My neighbor tried to report me to the WA and had an absolute melty over my clothesline. WA had rules against clotheslines, so this guy thought he had the upper hand and he was going to get me. But the state law actually makes it illegal to forbid the use of clothesline. So I won that, but man, he definitely proceeded to be an asshole to me and actively verbally harass me every time he saw me until he moved. I'd recommend blocking his number. It's not worth letting him harass you over text. Not the asshole. Old or not, he sounds like a massive D. Your wife is wrong. You don't treat people with respect because of the chronological age that happens to show on their birth certificate. You give respect because of who they are and how they are, and this guy doesn't sound like he deserves your respect. The only part one don't agree with is you telling him you'd charge for it. That makes it sound almost like a shakedown. I know it wasn't, and I get where you're coming from, but it would have been better to simply tell him you will no longer be doing it, and leave it at that. Not the asshole. If someone threatened to report me in order to get rid of my dog, they'd be lucky if the only thing I did was refuse to snowblow their driveway. Am I the asshole for siding with my husband when he insulted my brother? I'm 27 female, the youngest of 4 children, 31 female, 33 male and 35 female. I got married 6 months ago to my high school sweetheart, 27 male. My husband has been part of our family since we had our first anniversary together. He knows all my family members and they adore him. My family is very problematic though. All of them, except one of my sisters, are babying my 33-year-old brother too much. My brother is single and he's disappointed no woman approaches him. He used to date a girl 3 years ago but she broke up with him because she couldn't deal with his immaturity. My brother is very immature and has a superiority complex. He's always putting other people down. He's very judgmental and he always wants to make himself the center of attention. He's also insulted my husband behind his back multiple times and I've got in huge fights with him about this. He's admitted he's mad that my husband who's younger than him has his life set and he thinks my husband owes him respect because he's older and demands my husband never speaks of his goals or achievements in front of him. It's gotten so bad to the point we've gone LC with my brother. My mom, dad and one of my sisters believe that life is unfair for my brother and they said they wish he had what my husband and I have. My mom also believes that my brother is too good for any woman since no woman deserves such a precious person like him. I'm now pregnant with my first child and I invited my family into a casual dinner to make the announcement. We invited my brother too. During the announcement my brother commented something along the lines of, "Oh now my dear brother-in-law is showing off about knocking up my sister," which was very insulting to both me as a woman but also my husband. My husband then replied to him before I could talk and told him, with this attitude, "You still wonder why no woman puts up with you? You complain about being alone too much for someone who displays behaviors that will be the reason you stay alone forever. Now apologize to my wife and then to me." My mom, dad and sister sided with my brother but my other sister sided with us. I told my brother that he either apologizes or he walks out and how he ruined our announcement with his entitlement. My brother got up and left. My parents and sisters stayed but my mom and sister took me to the side and told me I'm the asshole for siding with my husband and embarrassing my brother by throwing him under the bus and how I could sort this out in private without speaking up. Not the asshole. If you can't handle being publicly called out for being an ass, don't be an ass in public. Not the asshole. Kudos to your hubby for speaking the truth. Your hubby did the right thing as have you. Your family are enablers. Your brother will never get better. He will always be dependent on your parents due to the entitlement the enabling causes. Not the asshole. Good for your husband. By the way, I could sort this out in private without speaking up. Less than you see that? That is exactly the problem here. Your brother gets a pass on his shitty behavior in public but you must speak in private. What your mom and sister and possibly others are willfully blind to is that they are encouraging and supporting his misogynistic bullshit and have taught him this behavior. Men can be unruly and outspoken but women are to be seen and not heard. We air our differences in private. You may need to go LC with them as well if they choose to die on this hill. Your brother is an immature jerk because your family has allowed him to be. Their coddling and excusing is doing him no favors, and I totally understand if you want no part of it. Tell your mom and your sister that if your brother acts like a jerk, he's going to be treated like one, and that you aren't going to ignore his bad behavior anymore. You're old enough to decide who you want to spend your time with, and you're 100% entitled to go LC with someone who constantly disrespects you and your husband. My mom also believes that my brother is too good for any woman since no woman deserves such a precious person like him. And here is the big reason why your brother is the way he is. Your brother doesn't need to approve your husband or your life events before you can talk about them. Your brother embarrassed himself with his behavior. Not the asshole. Not the asshole. Your brother sounds like an incel. Incels are not good people. For reference check R, nice guys. Not the asshole. Sounds like classic neckbeard, incel stuff. Blaming everyone else for not being attractive instead of trying to be a nice, wholesome rounded individual. Also, it doesn't sound like your husband insulted your brother. It seems like he just told him a harsh truth. All in all though, not the asshole, but I feel kinda bad for your brother. He'll never get out of that rut if mom and dad and sister are gonna treat him as the golden boy, even though he really needs a reality check. Not the asshole. LC to NC.